bakit ba continuous yung hindi nauubos? Diba? In spite of the seriousness and the aggressive campaign against illegal drugs, there seems to be a lot of supplies and nagmumultiply pa.
There were agents offering to give us, ang term sa nila, trabaho eh. Bibigyan kami ng trabaho. I personally sat down with some of them. Ang sistema, sir, I do not have to spend anything. They will do all the work, but they are asking 30% of the actual seizures as their payment.
I think that's very dangerous because if he didn't get the 30% commission, he might think of another way of getting a commission, not necessarily through the PIDEA, but from other means.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time, I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight.
There seems to be something wrong with the reward system used by the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency to pay its informants for successful seizures. It was revealed before the House Committee on Dangerous Drugs that aside from monetary rewards, some informants or assets supposedly actually proposed to get paid with the confiscated drugs.
This revelation prompted congressmen to launch a motu proprio investigation into the matter. Here's what we know. PIDEA Chief Virgilio Lazo said he himself spoke with one of the assets who proposed this reward. It was revealed that the assets would offer PIDEA agents jobs that will lead to the seizure of illegal drugs. Agents are told by certain assets that they no longer have to do or spend anything to get these jobs done. The catch is 30% of the illegal substances confiscated from the jobs will be given to the assets as reward. Surigao del Norte Representative Ace Barbers, who chairs the House Committee on Dangerous Drugs, says this revelation explains why illegal substances make it back to the street level. He notes that assets are connected to drug lords and users, and through this reward system, confiscated drugs are falling back to their hands through PIDEA assets.
But when exactly did a reward system start in PIDEA? Lazo says that giving rewards to assets started in 2002 when the agency was created. The legal basis for this Section 22 of RA 9165, or the Act instituting the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002. The law says that the Dangerous Drugs Board may recommend the granting of compensation, reward, or award to any person providing information that results in the successful seizure of dangerous drugs. Lazo said the monetary reward has been adjusted over the years, but currently, PIDEA can only grant a maximum of 2 million pesos as reward, regardless of the size of seized substances. Lazo also said that as far as his administration is concerned, only monetary value is allowed to be granted to assets through the reward system. He stressed he has not allowed drugs to be used as payment.
To tell us more about their plans for the investigation, we have with us on the show House Committee on Dangerous Drugs Chairman Surigao del Norte Representative Ace Barbers. Welcome to the big story, Congressman.
Hi, good evening, Gretchen and Robbie. Thanks for having me.
Magandang gabi po.
Hey, Congressman, this drug recycling has been reported to us various times. The latest one back in December 2022. Ano po ba yung modus operandi po nito? How deep does this go, and how much does it involve the cops as well as PIDEA agents?
Okay, first and foremost, Gretchen and Robbie, hindi ito standard practice ng PIDEA and PNP. No? In fact, the Director General of PIDEA now, General Lazo, revealed that there was a information that he likewise received saying that most of the rogue and scalawag agents of the PIDEA are actually giving incentives to the assets where they get information from not in the monetary value, but 30% of the seized or confiscated drugs or evidence are flowed back to the assets as part of his reward. No? That was the demand in the past, and I believe that the new Director General of PIDEA is now seriously investigating this. And this goes the same like as well with the Philippine National Police. There are rogue and scalawags in the Philippine National Police who do the same. And in fact, recycle confiscated drugs back to the streets.
Sir, I mean, on that point, yung recycled drugs, ano po ba ang nananaig na emosyon sa inyo? Because on the one hand, hearing this news, initially, reaction ng mga tao, shock at how something like this could even be alleged. On the other hand, people quickly think, pero parang narinig ko na to, hindi naman siguro bago tong modus na to.
Well, actually, to me, ako personally, this is new because this is the first time I ever heard that a shabu or a confiscated drug or evidence is being used as a reward, by some scalawag agents of the PIDEA and scalawag PNP personnel. So this is the first time I ever heard about this kind of a scheme or modus operandi. But this explains probably why there are still a lot of drugs, in the streets, and it keeps on coming back. I'm surprised why hindi nauubusan ng supply. So probably this is one scheme that explains why there's still a lot of drugs on the streets.
But Congressman, hindi naman sa pauunahan natin yung investigation, but you and your father as well have long been in the anti-drugs campaign and anti-drugs crusade. If you're going to look at something that's like this, how do you presume how high an investigation will go?
Well, when I heard about that revelation by the Director General of PIDEA, I immediately consulted with the members present, both in the session room as well as in Zoom, whether they would want to support my proposal to call for a motu proprio investigation on this subject matter. And I was able to get the majority nod or confirmation from the members saying that indeed there is a necessity to really conduct this inquiry in aid of legislation. Kasi nga, alam mo, nakakapagtaka, sabi ko nga, marami ng strategies ang in-employ, marami na ngang batikos ang inabot itong drug war, and yet it seems that the supply does not dwindle. It still keeps on coming back and growing in numbers. So ako bilang advocate ng anti-drug, I'm no expert in this field, but I'm just espousing and advocating a drug-free country in this regard. So I guess we should all plug the loopholes in the way we implement this drug war, as well as maybe focus on the law enforcement side of this strategy. So yun ang nasa isip ko.
You mentioned the rogue PNP and PIDEA agents. What exactly is in it for them? I mean, apart from the money in the drug trade for sure, but on the other end, is there a need to change the reward system, the incentives for our law enforcement?
No, I don't think there is a need to change the reward system. I think it's working very well. In fact, information coming from assets or informers have produced quite a significant achievement by the PIDEA and the Philippine National Police, and they were rewarded. So I think the reward system, which exists as provided pursuant to Section 22 of the Republic Act 9165, palagay ko, dapat nga siguro adihin pa natin, i-improve pa natin yung reward, kasi that will entice all these informers to provide information that will cause the arrest, apprehension of the drug syndicates and its members. So kasi ang ceiling apparently is only up to 2 million. If there is an information that there is drugs being traded in the amount of billions of pesos, I guess 2 million is too small. So kung pwede nga, palakihin pa natin.
Sige, maraming salamat po. Surigao del Norte Representative Ace Barbers.
Still on dangerous drugs, a lawmaker wants cannabis removed from the list of dangerous narcotics in the country. Davao del Norte Congressman Pantaleon Alvarez said that legalizing the use of cannabis or marijuana can bring added revenue to the government. Alvarez also claims that marijuana is supposedly less dangerous compared to other sin products like alcohol and cigarettes.
We can decriminalize cannabis and its derivatives, and we can collect billions worth of taxes from its production and sale. We can use added revenues to build more roads and bridges, more classrooms and hospitals, and more public service in pursuit of the common good.
However, health experts continue to express reservation about this proposal. The DOH says that the use of cannabis is prone to abuse and could lead to accidents as a result of poor concentration and coordination. The department is open, though, to discussing its use for medical purposes.
It can cause both short-term and long-term effects among individuals, and we believe that it will put, decriminalizing it would increase its availability and would put at risk some of our populations more than the others. And as such, Mr. Chair, we believe that some of the effects would include effects on our psychological, psychiatric effects, such as it increases the risk for psychosis, depression, and anxiety disorders.
Survivors of the ambush in Lanao del Sur recall their experience from last week. Meanwhile, authorities are looking into a drug angle as motive for the attack. Mon Gualvez with this report.
Bigla akong nagigising na sumisigaw daw ako, sabi ng asawa ko. Naisip ko yung pagtama ng bala na pag-cover ko kay Gub.
Nightmares continue to haunt Nasser Ganda Sr. days after the ambush against his relative, Lanao del Sur Governor Mamintal Alonto Adiong Jr. He was seated right beside the governor inside the SUV when bullets rained down on them. Their vehicle alone sustained 18 gunshots.
Parang may sinusunog. Yung pinipirito na mais na yung apoy na umano sa karsada sa dami ng na tumatama sa amin.
Ansari Sumandar also couldn't believe he would live to tell the tale. 7 vehicles were with the convoy. He was in the 6th.
Yung putok, grabe na. Then, ang naano ko lang, yung para may tinatapong kami na bato, yun pala, pinapaputukan kami, ang tinatamaan yung kalsada, tapos umaano sa amin yung yun, sabi ko, atras tayo.
Ansari said they took a U-turn to ask for help from the MILF checkpoints, but they were told to ask for help somewhere else.
Sinagot sa akin ng isa, sabi niya, Sir, walang order sa amin, hindi kami pwede, doon kayo pumunta sa kabilang kampo, hindi po kami pwede gumalaw dahil out na yan sa namin. Yun ang sagot nila sa akin, out na yan sa perimeter namin.
The Barm government explained that the MILF camp did not hear the ambush, but they're ready to take action if there are indeed lapses on the side of the MILF.
Meron namang disciplinary measures talaga na ini-impose yung MILF doon sa mga puwersa nila. Kung sakali man, defined naman kung saan naka-station yung mga tao natin. So wala rin tayong naririnig pa na report na merong involvement yung mga tao ng MILF.
Authorities are still gathering information to pinpoint the location of the perpetrators and to determine the motive behind the attack. Since November of last year, around 40 anti-illegal drug operations have been conducted by Lanao del Sur PNP based on orders by Governor Adiong. This is one of the angles in the ambush currently being studied by the authorities. It was reported that prior to the ambush, the police cracked down on 25,000 fully grown marijuana plants worth 5 million pesos in Maging. Some of the governor's relatives also believe that the ambush may have something to do with his campaign against illegal drugs in the province. For News 5, Mon Gualvez, We Are One News.
We spoke about the reward system earlier, about the drug trade. I mean, if it is indeed in the billions, just imagine, being able to increase that by how much, and then that would prove incentives for them to not go for the 30%.
But on the other side of it, like Congressman Barbers acknowledged, the fact that we keep mentioning the recycling of the drugs, diba? Parang he acknowledged that, recycling per se, meaning the drugs getting back into the streets, that's not new. But the notion of using the drugs as the incentive for the assets. Yun yung medyo
Dapat
shocking
i-clear
sa
out
kanila.
kung ano yung reward. Ano?
And as he said, they're going to have to look at not just how drugs may be coming into play, but also, as you asked him as well, the larger question about is there something wrong with the incentive system?
And I wonder how deep this goes. I mean, 30%, and then after that, 30%. And you just wonder, who is involved in this and paano napapayagan? How does this, go under our authorities' eyes? Definitely a lot to unpack right there. And the big story will return. Keep it here on One News. You're watching the big story here on One News.
Suspected New People's Army rebels reportedly killed 2 members of a Philippine Army rescue team on mission to find the crashed Cessna plane. Slain soldiers were identified as Private John Paul Adalim and Private Mark June Esico, members of the Army's 31st Infantry Battalion. The Southern Luzon Command said the 2 soldiers were at the market in Barangay Cotmon, Camalic Town to resupply when their unit's needs, when 5 armed men ambushed them around 7 a.m. Meanwhile, the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines said the wreckage found near the crater of Mayon Volcano was indeed that of the missing Cessna 340A. Earlier today, the search and rescue team using a military chopper and aircraft attempted to reach the wreckage site 3 times, but they failed due to strong winds in the area. The CAAP said the team will also try to use all-terrain vehicles to reach the crash site if the weather is good.
Maraming tatlong attempt ang ginawa kanina yung katipid sa mga helicopters dahil due to bad weather. And very dangerous naman doon sa mga rescuers natin just in case. Kaya maghintay tayo kumanda yung weather.
U.S. President Joe Biden announces new military aid for Ukraine during an unannounced visit to Kiev on Monday. The trip was timed to upstage the Kremlin ahead of the 1-year anniversary of Russia's invasion. Biden promised new military aid for Ukraine worth $500 million. Now, on top of that, Biden vows that the U.S. will stand with Kiev as long as it takes. The U.S. president also noted that additional sanctions would be announced this week against the Russian elite and companies. Officials in Washington and Moscow notified Russia before Biden's departure to avoid the risk of an attack on Kiev while he was there.
Putin thought Ukraine was weak and the West was divided. He's counting on us not to be able to bring in others on the side of Ukraine. He thought he could outlast us. I don't think he's thinking that right now. God knows what he's thinking, but I don't think he's thinking that. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room. We stand here together.
Indigents involved in criminal cases will have to pay less for bail. The Justice Department issued a circular which cuts in half any bail amount recommended by prosecutors for indigent respondents. The DOJ also set a 10,000 peso cap for bail involving poor litigants. The order takes effect immediately and will apply to all criminal cases except for crimes punishable by reclusion perpetua or life imprisonment. Respondents will need to present proof of indigency to be able to qualify for lower bail. And the big story will return. Keep it here on One News. still watching The Big Story here on One News.
The Justice Department says it will not object should detained former Senator Laila De Lima file a petition for writ of habeas corpus. Here's what we know. In an interview following a culmination activity at the New Bilibid prison, Justice Secretary Crispin Remulla advised De Lima's camp to file a petition for habeas corpus when asked about her continued detention. Remulla, however, added that this is better addressed in court. The writ of habeas corpus is the right to determine and challenge if a person is being lawfully or unlawfully detained. The possibility of De Lima's filing a petition for a writ of habeas corpus came up after the Supreme Court granted a habeas corpus petition for the release of Gigi Reyes, the former chief of staff of former Senator Juan Ponce Enrile. The Supreme Court said it granted Reyes the extraordinary writ because her constitutional right to a speedy trial was infringed and her detention had, quote, become oppressive, thus infringing upon her right to liberty. On Friday,
De Lima will mark her 6th year in detention. The former senator has been detained at Camp Crame since 2017 over drug allegations in the New Bilibid prison. One of the 3 drug charges against her was junked by the Muntinlupa court in February 2021. She has denied all allegations against her. And here to share with us their thoughts on the latest developments on former Senator Laila De Lima's case, we have with us live via Zoom Attorney Dino De Leon, legal counsel for Laila De Lima. Good evening. Welcome to The Big Story, Attorney.
Good evening, Robbie, and to all our viewers.
Sir, your reaction first to what the Justice Secretary said, Justice Secretary Remulla, to be precise, saying basically that maybe they will not object if Senator De Lima takes the same route as Gigi Reyes.
Well, of course, the unsolicited advice coming from no less than the Secretary of Justice himself is always welcome. But such unsolicited advice is something that we may appreciate, but the big difference between the case of former Senator Laila De Lima and Attorney Gigi Reyes is, if you would recall, in the case of Attorney Gigi Reyes, she actually requested or moved for bail before, and that was denied. In the case of former Senator Laila De Lima, our bail motion is still ongoing. So we have 2 remaining cases in criminal case 165, wherein we have a pending bail petition, and as well as criminal case 167. In criminal case 167, there are, I think, 2 witnesses left. In criminal case 165, that is the case where Rafael Ragos testified, the witness who actually withdrew his testimony, so to speak, and recanted all his accusations against Senator Laila De Lima. And we actually have a motion to revive bail there, or actually praying for outright dismissal of the case. So our track is, it is better for us to actually wait for the bail motions that we have right now. So that is the fundamental difference between the case of former Senator Laila De Lima and Attorney Gigi Reyes. At any rate, Robbie, this is really what puzzles us in the defense team. If the Justice Department is saying that there are a lot of ways to make sure that we can fast track the liberty of Senator Laila De Lima, or they want to post it, or they can take this route, the Justice Department is not powerless. The Secretary of Justice himself just recently released a memorandum circular authorizing all prosecutors to actually withdraw cases wherein there is no reasonable certainty of conviction. So the Justice Department itself can actually motu proprio withdraw the case against Senator Laila De Lima if they think that the case is weak, so to speak.
Sir, I mean, to that point, you're saying that by the standards being set out by the Justice Department, precisely as you said, that there is no certainty of conviction. You're saying that the case of Senator Laila De Lima is a low-hanging fruit, as it were, that should basically hit that standard or not hit that
Well,
standard?
it is very clear because, the witnesses have recanted, number one. The only thing that they have are the saliva of these witnesses who are first and foremost incredible. Most of them are convicted felons. That's first. The second one is this is supposed to be a drug trading case, but they haven't actually offered any single gram of drug in evidence. Number two. Number three, if this is a drug trading case, at the very least, a fundamental element supposedly of the crime is, of course, the flow of money. And until now, they haven't actually established that there was money or there was any actual transaction, so to speak. In fact, the very witness of the prosecution in these cases, one of the investigators of the Anti-Money Laundering Council actually stated categorically that there is no investigation linking former Senator Lai de Lima in any kind of illicit transaction. So all of these circumstances, when taken in totality, actually show that there is no strong evidence of guilt against Senator Lai de Lima. So if the Justice Secretary himself will follow his own standard, then it is clear that there is no reasonable certainty of conviction here. Because to begin with, Senator Lai de Lima is innocent, and this was just a ploy or a persecution against her just because she questioned the violent war on drugs. Remember, Robbie, that no less than the United Nations itself actually had a report on the case of former Senator Lai de Lima, the special rapporteur on the working group on arbitrary detention, and it categorically found that the detention of former Senator Lai de Lima was arbitrary. So this is a very much low-hanging fruit, and the Justice Department is not powerless from actually upholding justice in this country by withdrawing the cases motu proprio.
Right, we will be having more of that later on The Chiefs. Maraming salamat, Attorney Dino De Leon, legal counsel of former Senator Laila de Lima.
And that's the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World Online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more analysis. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make a free account now, signalplay.com, and stream One News anytime, anywhere. Ako po si Gretchen Ho. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.